I think Sailor is trying to pull a fast one on us. Sailor is introducing a new hand-finished stainless steel nib that is supposedly going to be the new base nib on fairly premium pens like the full-size Sailor Pro Gear, the 1911 large, and even eventually larger pens like the King of Pen. Now, I have a problem with their approach here for two reasons, and I will explain them to you. First is on the strategy. First is on why does this even make sense for the brand? And the second is on the execution. So what nib are they actually using and how do they actually plan to do this? So to start this, I want to start talking about what Sailor means as a company, what they represent, what they're good at. Now, I like Sailor nibs. I have a range of Sailor pens from their smaller gold nibs to their full-size nibs to pens like the King of Pen, which I had made a video on just a couple weeks ago. I like Sailor nibs. I think their pens are, they're okay, but their nibs are excellent. Now, Sailor has branded for decades that their 21 karat nib is their premium offering. That's what they wanted to be known for. Since going back to the 1970s, 1980s, they had pens with 21 karat nibs, and the branding was also always very prominent. They always made you aware that it was the 21 karat version versus the 14 karat or even the 18 karat in certain instances. So 21 karat has always been Sailor's thing. And in today's market, they're the only maker that has a 21 karat nib. And they're not shy about marketing the fact that nibs are 21 karat. When Sailor made pens for other people, like a few years ago, you may remember there was a pen called the Cross Peerless 125 that had a Sailor made nib. It was the full-size nib, so it was the same size nib as something like a Sailor full-size Pro Gear, but instead of being 21 karat, it was 18 karat. And my hunch is that Sailor did that to make sure that 21 karat was something that only Sailor could do. So now, when Sailor wants to make a stainless steel nib and put it in premium pens like the Pro Gear at a price point of, I've heard, around $200, that doesn't really sit well with me. Now, this isn't the first time in history it's been tried. Parker still does that today with pens like the Parker Sonnet, which is a fairly premium pen, but with a stainless steel nib instead of gold. One of the first to do this was a company called Schaefer, which was one of the biggest fountain pen makers of its day, founded over 100 years ago. They've sort of gone out of business as the original company, the name's still around as a completely separate company. But this is an example of a pen from the 1970s. And I want to show this to you as this is the clearest example I can think of what Sailor is trying to do. So this here is a fairly premium Schaefer pen. It is made out of stainless steel. It's called the Imperial, which was a fairly high-end pen for Schaefer at the time. It has a fairly complicated inlaid nib. These were not easy to make. And this pen, when it came out, it was only available with a 14 karat version of this nib. Now, a few years later, due to trying to save some costs and increase costs of gold, Schaefer made this pen with a stainless steel nib as well as the 14 karat gold nib. And in talking to some people, really cool people who've worked at the Schaefer factory way back when, they gave the same amount of attention to these stainless steel nibs as they did to their gold nibs. So these were hand finished. They treated the tipping, the polishing, as if this was a gold nib. And the result is a very nice stainless steel nib. These nibs write extremely well, they're very well tuned, and they're really cool. However, they do not feel like the gold nibs. And it's not to do with the tipping material. The tipping material is the same, the polishing is the same. The reason why these steel nib pens don't feel like the gold nib is in the properties of the material themselves. So gold is a softer material than steel, and when you write with the pen, you can feel that this pen will feel a bit harsher in the hand. It will give you less of that smooth feel through the pen, through the actual material of the nib. And that's also the reason why larger gold nibs feel nicer, more pleasant than smaller ones, because there's more of that material to sort of cushion the vibrations of the pen. So even though these were really nice pens, really nice nibs, they were not the same as the gold nibs. So that's the clearest example I could think of what Sailor is trying to do today. Now, they're doing this to save costs, doing it because of the increased price of gold, same as Schaefer did back in the day. It's like a repeat of history. Now, it didn't work for Schaefer, and I don't think it's going to work for Sailor either. Now I said that, so that's the problem with the approach I have. Now let's talk about the execution, and this is where this really drives me crazy. So I got to see one of the new Schaefer hand finished nibs, and what surprised me is that it seems like they're using a nib that is Sailor's entry level stainless steel nib. So this nib is the same size and profile as the stainless steel hand finished nibs that Sailor is going to put in their very premium pens. However, this pen is their $10 1911 line. This line is, I believe it's called the Compass in the US. I don't know what it's called elsewhere, but this is their cheapest offering in the fountain pen space. This was meant to compete with pens like the $15 Pilot Explorer. So this is the cheapest stainless steel nib that Schaefer makes. And you can find in this pen, you can find in pens like the LeCool, and that's where it kind of ends. Sailor does make a more premium stainless steel nib for pens like, I think this pen is called the Profit Casual, but this pen is around the $40 to $50 range, and it has a more premium looking stainless steel nib. Kind of like how Pilot used to make this pen called the Lucina in the $50 price range, and it had a more premium looking stainless steel nib. So same idea. Now, why would Sailor use the cheaper nib for their premium pens versus the more premium looking stainless steel nib that they already have? Well, my theory is because this thinner nib won't fit in pens like the full-size Pro Gear. So if you compare these nibs, you can see at the base, the more premium stainless steel nib is just not wide enough. However, the more inexpensive nib, the one that's not even folded all the way around, you can see this is a much thinner looking nib, that does fit the larger pens. So I think Sailor is just being cheap here and picking a nib that they already have instead of making a brand new premium stainless steel nib. And then I don't doubt that they're going to finish them in a hand finished way and make them more premium than the nibs from their $10 pens, but the fact that they're starting out with such a cheap nib gives me some pause. So let me show you now a bit about how these nibs write. So I'll show you a 1911, the basic, inexpensive $10 nib version, and then I'll show you, and this only comes in a medium fine today, and then I'll show you a medium fine 21 karat nib, and we'll do a quick comparison. So let's start with the $10 1911 compass, or whatever this pen is called. So this is a Sailor. This is the $10 medium fine stainless steel nib. This is perfectly okay. I actually think Sailor makes one of the best nibs in this price range. I like writing with this nib as much as I like writing with pens like the Pilot Explorer, the Pilot Prera, the ones that use Pilot's cheaper version of the steel nib. It's fine. There's, at the price range, at $10 for this pen or $30 for the LaCool, there's nothing really to complain about with this nib. It's very well tuned. I wouldn't say it's very smooth, but it's perfectly smooth. It's perfectly acceptable. There's nothing to complain about. I think this nib can be best defined as perfectly adequate. Now, let's take a look at the 21 karat nib. And I'm actually going to show you, just because this pen is inked, the smaller version of the 21 karat nib. So this isn't even the premium, the larger version. This is the number 5 size 21 karat nib that you would find in an upgraded version of a Sailor Pro Gear Slim, or the upgraded version of the Sailor Profit Standard. So this is the Sailor number 5 medium fine 21 karat nib. I don't know if you can tell just from the camera and the sound, but there is a lot more feedback on this nib, and it is a very, very nice feedback. This is a very nice pencil like feedback. It's a very precise nib, very enjoyable. The other thing that, two other quick points. One is these are the same ink. So this is Pilot, blue black, and the same nib size. They're both medium fine. And hopefully you can see that the ink flow is greater in the gold nib versus the stainless steel nib. There's just more shading. There's just a nicer ink flow in the gold nib. The second point, which you won't be able to see in the camera, is that despite the feedback, this gold nib feels smoother. And that's a result of the softness of gold versus steel. So the fact that the nib is made out of gold, it makes the nib softer, it makes the vibrations that transmit through the nib softer, and it feels smoother versus the steel nib, even though they can have very similar tipping, they can have the same nib width. So these nibs are not the same. These nibs, you cannot get these pens to feel exactly the same because you're talking about material science here. So anyway, I just wanted to make this quick video. I don't know how these nibs are going to do in the market, but I don't have a lot of confidence that they're going to do really well. And Sailor, man, I hope they keep making their excellent 21 karat nibs at a somewhat reasonable price, because that's really how, in my opinion, that the company has been defined. That's what they're known for. And I'm not sure if I can get on board with an expensive Sailor with the stainless steel nib. So anyway, thank you for watching. See you guys next time.